Brian. We'll start with Brandon, and then we'll go to Eugene.
Gilad, I've always had the theory that the Israelis need the Palestinians. Psychologically, it makes them feel superior, powerful, and it gives them an outside enemy that they can join together to fight.
Even inside enemy, it's like...
Yeah. An inside enemy that's really an outside, something that keeps them afraid and keeps them focused. What do you think about that?
There is no doubt. It's not just that the Israeli needs an enemy, and I explore it really in the Wandering Who. Jewish secular identity is defined by negation. This is very, very simple. While Orthodox Jews are defined by the Torah, they know who they are. They don't have to say, I am a Jew. You see him with the yarmulke, I know that he is a Jew. Yeah? When it comes to secular Jews, you ask them, are you an American? They say, there is this kind of thing. Like, are you a Zionist? This sound, this unique sound, expresses a form of disagreement. They are not exactly American. They need negation. Things can define positively. For instance, I'm a saxophonist. I own a saxophone. I make a living being a saxophonist. And I can be defined as well by not being a cow, not being a trumpeter. The Jewish identity, Jewish secular identity, defines my negation. In order to maintain it's okay. It's okay. It's a lot of most identity politics, which is, by the way, a Jewish invention. But Jews are better than anyone else in identity politics because they're doing it for 3,000 years. You know, gays are doing it now for two weeks or something. You know, they don't have a chance. The problem with Jewish identity politics, or being defined by negation, is that you need an enemy. Here we are. Israeli-Palestinian. Is it familiar? Yes. Yes. By the way, it is very interesting that we have a Palestinian, because I think that you missed the beginning of the talk. I took some exemplary cases of Palestinians who live in the refugee camp in Beirut, Sabra and Shatila, another one in Gaza. When you look at the Palestinian, as for Palestinians themselves, they cannot agree on anything among themselves, because the people in Gaza, they just maybe want now 1 day without a drone. They have to zzz all the time. It is quite annoying. You are watched. Every second there may be a guided missile. When it comes to Palestinians in the West Bank, they just want to drive from A to B, 5 kilometers apart, 3.5 miles apart. It's a 1-day journey. They don't remember what are straight lines. They cannot even study geometry now in schools. When it comes to Israeli-Palestinians, maybe I'm wrong. Israeli-Palestinians, she probably just wants equal rights. Maybe, yeah? To be able to go to study in Tel Aviv University and to have a flat in Tel Aviv. It's not easy, am I right?
You're right.
And when it comes to Beirut, to Sabra and Shatila and Hilwe, Yarmouk, they just want to have a tomorrow. All right? They can't agree on anything because Israel built unique policy that oppresses each of them or dismantles their rights in a particular way. And the solidarity movement doesn't help, because the solidarity movement cares about the Jews. and their internal debates. Here we are. The Palestinians can unite. If you go back to form the entire discourse around the right of return, we start to move forward again. In spite of the fact that it doesn't apply to you, but it connects your issue with every Palestinian on this planet. You are more than entitled to disagree with me. All right? Next.
My question has to do with the idea of right of return.
Yeah.
It does imply that if the Palestinians are coming back, they will get their properties back, their homes, their land.
Okay, this is, I guess that you read The Wandering Jew.
Yes.
In the end of the, I'm faced with this question every day. How do we solve it? And I always say, listen, you know, I'm a philosopher. I'm not an activist. I refine the questions. I don't come with answers.
Okay.
Easy. In the end of The Wandering Jew, I say, I know how to solve the question. I know how to solve the problem. It's very easy. Benjamin Netanyahu stands tomorrow morning in the Knesset and he delivers a 30-second speech. Israeli citizen? Yeah, no, I don't do it. No, but no, I don't. Is, by the way, sound-wise, it's very similar to Dershowitz when he gets angry. It's kind of a Jewish diaspora thing, you know. When we think that he may as well be a sex offender, you know. Benjamin Netanyahu in the Knesset saying, Israeli citizens, I gathered the situation quite simple. We are two people. On one hand, we want peace. We invite all the Palestinians to come back. Now, how many Palestinians would come back? Would Ali Adonima go back to Lifta to ride on a donkey? Probably not. Tel Aviv is more interesting for him. It's not clear how many Palestinians would come back. But once the Israelis are doing that, the conflict is over. They won. They let the Palestinians now deal with their issues. But why Benjamin Netanyahu cannot do it? In order to take such an incredibly clever move, he has to first de-Jewify himself. Are the Israelis going to de-Jewify themselves voluntarily? No. And this is why it is more than likely that Israel will implode, and it's moving rapidly towards that end. However, I believe the day I stopped being a Jew and I realized that I really support the Palestinians, the day I realized that I was living on Palestinian land, because it wasn't clear to me in the beginning. Sorry. It took me quite a few years to understand, but you know, and you cannot walk, you know, it's like you start, it was very good for my diet. The day I realized that I support Palestinians, I became a supporter of Palestinian resistance. I support any form of Palestinian resistance. It doesn't mean that I have to support killing. But if a Palestinian, God forbidden, commit what they call an act of terror and kill himself together with another 30 Jews in Tel Aviv, which is devastating, my job, and it's not a simple job, is to explain why he did it. What are the circumstances? This is the meaning of solidarity. Am I right? It's simple. Everything is pretty simple unless we start to zigzag between terms. That's it.
You have to explain to the Palestinian why you did it.
But I don't have to explain to the Palestinian anything. I have to explain to you guys. It's not a problem. I'll do it on RT or on Press TV in a debate with an Israeli settler. This is where I do it. Say, we are victims! And I say, you're not victim. You're not victim. I'll do, because the Press TV, they also like this kind of mezzo-soprano victim and you're not a victim. You're not a victim. Doesn't work.
Okay, so I want to pause for 2 seconds to change the tape.
I was at a demonstration in Washington, D.C. in 2002. It was 1 year prior to when we invaded Iraq. But that year, the mainstream media, briefly became aware of how Palestinians were being treated in their uprising. There was a video that didn't go viral because the internet didn't really have it, that wasn't that well established, but it was a Palestinian father and his son taking cover from the Israeli Defense Forces shooting. And they were unarmed, clearly. They were just civilians, and the soldier shooting at him just killed him outright. So even, mainstream media picked it up. Even Geraldo Rivera thought it was terrible. Mm-hmm. And Answer in Washington, D.C., the anti-war movement was going to have an anti-war demonstration, but they changed it into a pro-Palestinian Muslim demonstration. It was the largest demonstration of American Muslims in history. I think there were about 100,000. And I was covering it, and of course I was still kind of a liberal, two-state solution type guy. Mm-hmm. But I got turned around very quickly at that demonstration because there was a group of Hasidic rabbis that addressed the rally, and it was on a Saturday, so they had a black Muslim translate for them what they wanted to say. They had a vow of silence, I guess, on the Sabbath. Yeah. And I was just shocked. I wanted to know who these guys were. And discovered, aside from the secular Jewish community, I'd like you to talk about the Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox Jewish community, and I understand you had a dialogue with Rabbi Shapiro.
Because we have to finish soon, so I don't want to... okay, Orthodox. This brings us back to the Wandering Who, that I guess that quite a few of you read by now. In the Wandering Who, I do a very simple thing. It's a very, very simple book. Simple on the verge of simplistic. It's very obvious that Israel is the Jewish state. And if it wasn't clear to Philip Wise and Ali Abunimah until now, Israel passed the cabinet, the national bill, which determines that Israeli legislation policies are driven by the Jewishness of the Jewish state. So it was very clear to me that once and for all, we must understand what is Jewishness. And when I start to look into it, I realized that Jews, those who identify as Jews, are divided into 3 categories, non-exclusive. So you can be 1, 2, 3, 1 and 3, 2 and 3, and so on. Those who believe in the Torah, 1. Those who say, I'm a Jew because I have Jewish ancestry, my mother, my grandmother. This is, by the way, very elastic. A lot of people in America are becoming Jews now. There are some statistics that suggest the Jews, the Jewish Jews in the West, rise from 13 million to 60 million.
16 or
60. 60. I'm about to write about it. It's incredible. If you were looking for a job in a law company in New York, I'm a Jew, it is, and you learn the high pitch, which is kind of, and that's it. All right? This is the second category. The third category, which is the most problematic category, is those who identify politically as Jews. Chaim Weizmann said there are no American Jews or French Jews, or there are Jews who live in America, Jews who live in France, Jews who live in Britain. He understood that Jewishness is a primary quality. And when I realized that this is the case, I realized that this is the essence of Zionism. And then I also realized the JVP fits into Chaim Weizmann model. They identify politically as Jews. Ladies and gentlemen, in the Israeli Knesset, the third party, the third biggest party, is an Arab party. Am I right? In the Israeli Knesset, in the Israeli racist state, the third biggest party is an Arab party. How many Jews lived in the board of JVP? How many Muslims or Arabs or Gentiles or Goyim? Not one. Which means that Israel is more progressive and diverse than the progressive anti. How embarrassing. What a bunch of morons they are. Who are they trying to fool? Now, the first category, at least traditionally, is innocent. Identifying as a Jew, believing in the Torah, is an innocent category. Some of you want to kill me. I'm used to it. Why? Because the Bible is vile at places, and the Talmud is even more frightening. In the Talmud you can find verses that tell you that if a Goy, a Gentile, if you fall tomorrow into a well, and I'm a Jew walking by, and it's Saturday, and I see you falling down, but it's Saturday, I can let you die. Yeah. Talmud. But here is an astonishing observation. In the history of Rabbinical Judaism, Rabbinical Jews have never been involved in any collective crime against any people. It's actually the secular Jews. It's the secular Bolshevist Jews who flattened Ukraine and Russia. The Spanish Civil War. Quarter of the International Brigade were Jews. Moshe, Chaim, Yosef, they spoke Yiddish. The lingua franca of the International Brigade was Yiddish. This was the only way they could communicate. These were Marxist Jews. In Palestine, not Rabbinical Jews, Marxist Zionists committed the Nakba. Amazing. So, this is changing now, and this was my little maybe dispute with the rabbi, 2 days ago, because this is true historically. In Israel today, the Rabbinical Jews are moving more and more into Zionist zealousy or Israeli patriotic zealousy, and they are the most dangerous, vile people on the planet. Which explains what a very clever Jew, German, not Lithuanian, no, he was from Latvia, I think, Yeshaya Leibovich. But he was kind of a Germanic philosopher. Yeshaya Leibovich argued that probably the Rabbinical Jews could see how dangerous Jews could be once they are in their promised land, and they never let it happen. And Gershon Scholem, another biblical scholar, German, who moved to Israel in the 30s, came with the same. He said, once we start to talk the language of God, we will be as merciless as God. In this book, the Old Testament is more violent than Tarantino. This is the entry. Sorry, you wanted to ask a question. And maybe this would be the last one. I don't know, because we want to have a break before. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, and not to keep you away from the music.
No, it's not an issue, but yeah.
So I obviously grew up in Israel and Haifa, and for many years it was, all those problems, political problems, violent problems, attacks, deaths, killings, threats, are all in the border, are all in Gaza, are all far away until it moves to your own neighborhood. And I'm not sure if you heard of restaurant Maxim bombing in 2006. It was my family's restaurant. And so until it moves to be in your face, that you start becoming very involved and you really realize how connected you are to the conflict, as much as you don't want to, for years. And wrote a book about it. And I was wondering and I appreciate your perspective. I don't think really politicians will ever change the conditions. It's not really about, if anything, it's about the musicians, it's people.
No, artists and people who think truly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the ideas that I present in the book, and I was wondering what is your take on it, is that the Palestinians and the Jews are much like soulmates, that they always challenge each other, that there's always hardship in their relationship, that there's this separation and there's, I'm better than you philosophy that's been going on now for many, many years, and that it's almost like the answer to the Jews after everything that happened in Germany with Hitler and after all the killings was not really a land. Do Jews feel like that solved the problem that they brought with them from Europe? And you're talking about millions of people who brought depression, anxiety, fear, torture, everybody's going to kill us, and they still, so many of them live in that on a daily basis, that everyone's out to get us. 22 countries, and only 2, Jordan, Egypt, are the only 2 that we have peace contracts with. One way. You don't see many Jordanians coming to visit Israel. And so, what do you think about the fact that they are meant to go through all these struggles, that it's simply a part of healing, that you struggle, and you can struggle endlessly. You decide as people when enough is enough to move to the next level of healing.
Okay. It is a very interesting topic. I know that I look like a prophet, but I'm not a prophet. Although Mark Ellis, the Jewish theologian, think that I am the new biblical prophet, which is amazing, but I told him that he was wrong. I'm just an essentialist. I deal with it a lot. You speak Hebrew. When Israelis want to swear, do they swear in Hebrew? Do they swear in Yiddish? They swear in Arabic. Because Russian is different. Yeah? Yok tvoyo mat. Yeah? When Israelis want to swear, they do it in Arabic. We can do a competition. I probably can swear better in Arabic than, what is your name? Than Catherine. I know all of them. Everything. All right? Why? Why? Because the Israelis know that they don't belong to the place. So when they swear, they become part of the land. When the Israelis want to eat, do they go to eat matzah balls like New York Jews? Gefilte fish? No way! Can you find, you're at a restaurant, can you find, how many gefilte fish restaurants you find in Haifa? 1, 2? How many places with hummus? When the Israelis want to eat, they become part of the land. There is an Israeli despair to become part of this land. But it's a dialectic mode. The more they become Arabs, the more they hate the Arabs for becoming Arabs. Another very interesting sector, the Israeli Arabs. Vast majority of Israeli Jews are Israeli Arabs, or Arab Jews. Sorry, Arab Jews, not Israeli Arabs, Arab Jews. Jews who came from Morocco, Egypt, Iraq, Yemen. They are suffocated with hatred to the Palestinians. Why? Because they are like the Palestinians. Because they are the real brothers of the Palestinians. And in order to differentiate themselves from the Palestinians, which is it's a common thing in America, you would see that the Archie Bunker, the lower classes are. You remember Archie Bunker?
Yeah.
Yeah. The lower classes are more racist because they want to differentiate themselves from migrant communities, or so on and so on. All right. So all those elements working within the Israeli society. Here, I am completely out of order what I'm going to say now. Zionism is the most beautiful thing that happened to the Jews. I mean, early Zionism. Herzl Nordau. It was a movement that was driven by self-hatred. Nobody hated the Jews more than Herzl, the diaspora Jews. Herzl, Nordau, Jabotinsky. They were full with repulsion to their brothers and sisters. They said, look at us. We are capitalists, usurers. We never go to work. They said, we are going to become producers, farmers, workers. It's all because we are not living on our land. And they came to Palestine and they started to work. And they built factories. And they made kibbutzim. And they work hard, they sweat for 2 weeks. And then they realized that the Palestinians were cheaper. And they became Jews again. So when we look at Israel, we have to understand, you understand what I'm talking, you are familiar with all those things there is the idea, oh, we want to be beautiful, we want to be people like all people. The Zionist dream is to make the Jew into people like all other people. Let me tell you something, American, do you want to be people like all other people? This is why Zionism crashed. You cannot say that you want to be like all other people if all other people don't want to be like all other people. It's a paradox. And this paradox is the core of the Jewish identity crisis. The more they want to be you, the more they want to be Catherine, the more they must hate you for
What they lack.
being the ideal incarnation of what they aren't. It's very interesting. Anyway, do you want to? Yeah, one more. Yeah, we okay.
But just quickly, I think related to what you're saying is, I have this distinct impression that the Jewish people, they really did for such a long time undergo such hardship throughout Europe, and then there was the Holocaust. I think, and then they raised their kids, as far as I've been able to observe, have this fear. Everybody's out to get us, you know. So they feel deficient, they feel inferior deep down. And so in order to feel superior, you have to have someone there that you make inferior. You make them inferior, then you
Yeah,
can point to them.
we discussed this issue. But the one thing that you have to remember, and again, this is something that I explore here, and I take credit for this. I think that it is a unique concept, and it's mine. We are familiar, don't complain. We are aware of people who suffer from post-traumatic stress. In the case of the Jews, what we see occasionally is people who suffer from pre-traumatic stress. Oi, and if he comes, and I'm not there, and then there will be atomic bomb and Ahmadinejad. All Jewish politics must be realized in terms of pre-traumatic stress. There is an imaginary fear, and then they stop. They were very afraid of Hitler. They had a good reason. What they did, as soon as Hitler was elected, they declared a Judea boycott of Germany. Before, there was a single legal, anti-Jewish legal change in the German law system. This started a snowball. Now, it's maybe not fair to say, you know, maybe things would turn bitter anyway. But as far as we know, German Jewry begged the American Jewish Congress, or the Jewish American Committee, not to do it. Said, give us time. Let us try to deal with the Nazi regime. You know, you have Rabbi Prince who was himself kind of pro-Nazi. He said, listen, we are Zionists, we are racist, you are Nazis, you are racist. We are brothers. All right? When you look at Jewish history, when you look at Jewish politics, Israeli politics, American Jewish politics, pushing us into wars. Why the Jewish lobby tried to push us into a war with Syria, with Iran? This is pre-traumatic stress. It's very difficult to deal. How can you deal with, you know, post-traumatic stress is how to deal. So pre-traumatic stress? Okay.